Tariq Kadir is at home in Tampa today. He got back from Israel last night. His trip there, most unforgettable. He spent 9 days under house arrest after being beaten by Israeli police. Hassan Shibli is from the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR. He's here this morning to talk about how Tariq is doing. I know it's been a short night for you and your friends and family, so thank you for coming in. First of all, let me ask you this. You told me just a second ago, and we've not reported this, some of Tariq's family in Israel was arrested just after he left there?
Yeah, the celebration was really short-lived because while we are very happy and overwhelmed and excited to have Tariq back, really he can't forget his family and relatives that are still going through persecution over in Jerusalem simply because they're Palestinian. In fact, his cousins and his uncles, about 4 or 5 of them, were arrested just hours before Tariq landed into the States. It almost appeared as if the Israelis were waiting till the family left, till international media attention was off of that town for them to resume their activities.
Any word on why they were arrested?
Not really, none at all. I mean, in fact, what we had heard was that the Israeli military and police were heavily in that area, in Shufat, and picking up a lot of youth, people under the age of 70, a lot of teenagers, and just unfortunately arbitrarily targeting the Palestinian people in that region.
And how many of his family arrested, did you say?
We've confirmed at least 4 individuals right now.
Wow. Well, we'll continue to follow that, I'm sure. Let's talk about him. We saw him arrive at the airport last night. The pictures we had seen, he was pretty beaten up. He's looking like he's recovering now.
Yes, when I saw him, gave him a big hug and said, "Tariq, how are you doing?" He said, "It's great to be back." I said, "How are you feeling though?" He said, "It still hurts on the inside. It really hurts on the inside." In fact, before I left him around 2 a.m., his family was getting ready to take him to the ER room to give him a full checkup immediately. And now we have some meetings coming up with some specialists as well to make sure that there's no long-term damage either.
When you say he said it still hurts on the inside, do you think he meant physically, emotionally, or both?
I really think it meant both. I mean, he pointed to his ribs, and when he took off his shirt, I could see the bruise marks, in fact, and I saw many of the bruise marks on his face, on his hands. Really did not look good at all. However, I think there's also a lot of trauma that he's going through on a mental level, and he was just so overwhelmed with the love and support of the hundreds of people that came to greet him. In fact, he didn't want his friends to leave. I was there, up until 2 a.m., and some of his friends had to leave. He said, no, please stay, don't leave me yet. So he was really just happy to be back with his friends and family again.
What do you think, and I know it's very early to talk about this, but what do you think Tariq does with all of this now? How does he use this in his life?
I really think it will make him a stronger person. Obviously, it's a very traumatic experience, but because of the love and support he's received, I think this will make him a stronger person. One of the things he told me is that, and his family members told us, really, they said this really helps us appreciate the freedom and the rights we have as Americans that very few people enjoy in the rest of the world. So I think it's really making them more proud Americans and hopefully voices for peace and tolerance to stand up against this cycle of violence, which is leading to the deaths and injury of so many innocent children.
Hassan, we hated seeing this happen. You hate seeing it happen to anybody. We certainly hated seeing it happen to someone who lives here, goes to school here. But the takeaway, I think, from all of this is it certainly made all of us focus on a story, a situation, a world away that we may not really think about all that often.
Right, and that was the family's concerns. I mean, Tariq himself said, look, the only reason you know my name and you don't know the name of the 35, 40 other children that were recently killed in Gaza right now because of the bombing over there is because I'm an American citizen and it was caught on camera. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know my name. So they don't want this to be just about Tariq. They do want this to be a message about peace for the world and to remember all the children who are suffering throughout the world that we need to take a strong stance regardless of the color of their passport or their skin.
Hassan, before I let you go, and because I want to go back to that first thing that we talked about, the arrest of some of his family members in Israel. They're Palestinians living in Israel. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, in East Jerusalem.
And are their lives prior to this happening, all the terrible things that have happened to them over there, are their lives persecuted anyway?
What they told me is what happened to Tarek is nothing unique, that they're used to this living over there in Palestine, that there's a lot of arbitrary arrest and severe abuse by the Israeli police officers. And I think this will really be telling, what Israel does with those officers involved in that beating will really tell us whether Israel really tolerates that kind of culture of police abuse or not. What we've heard right now is only one of those police officers that's seen viciously attacking Tarek has been suspended, and he's still pending possible charges. Well, what about the 2-3 other officers that assisted or stood by while the beating occurred? Aren't they going to be held accountable? If not, it's really going to send a bad message to the international community that that kind of violence against Palestinians is tolerated. In fact, Tarek told me that he saw the officer who beat his son, and the officer said, I'm the one that beat your son. And he said, what did he do? He said, it's enough that he's a Palestinian.
Wow. It's hard for us to understand here that kind of hate. Don't you think?
Absolutely, and I think this reinforces the beauty of our country, is that we're built on this principle of diversity, where we respect differences in faith and culture and politics, and really this reminds us of the important message that we have to bring down the walls of ignorance and hate that are dividing us, and learn to value the lives of all people, especially children, equally, regardless of differences of race or religion. Tarek made very clear, look, no child, Israeli, Palestinian, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, deserves to go through what he went through, and we need to stop the violence before further children are hurt, injured, or even killed.
At the same time, we're getting info this morning that the temporary ceasefire that was in place that the UN had asked for ended because some rockets from Gaza went into Israel. So I mean, there's a lot of hatred on both sides over there, isn't there?
It's unfortunate, but we must remember that in the past few days, about 1 Israeli has been killed, and that's one too many, of course. But 200 Palestinians have been blown up by U.S.-funded missiles, unfortunately, and about 4 out of 5 of those, according to the UN, have been civilians. Just yesterday, 4 children were blown up on the beach by the Israelis. I mean, Israel really must take initiative to stop this bloodshed, because way too many civilians are dying.
All right. Hey, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for coming in this morning, and we will be talking again soon, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.